they're always the team that people forget about. And it's not fair to the New York Islanders, who finished third in the division last year. And
they had a divisional spot.
They did have a divisional spot.
Yes.
Jesse, what are you laughing about?
It was like through no fault of their own.
Yes, they did.
Them. Shut up.
You know?
No, they had a very good end.
It's like when the Jays made the playoffs not the previous year, and they kind of just backed in the playoffs by losing a couple games in the final week of the season. Everybody around them kind of lost.
No one deserves being compared to the Blue Jays. I apologize.
The Islanders did finish 7th in the actual conference standings, but they were 3rd in the division, and that's all that counts in Gary's NHL job.
That's what I mean. Like, you get a 3rd spot in the division when you actually finish 7th in the conference. That's through just the rest of it being bad. Like, let's just align it 1 through 8 here, people.
Yeah, I agree with you,
No,
Jesse.
that's not shotting at the Islanders. That's a shot at the NHL for having the weirdest standing system in the world.
And let's be honest, they still would have made the playoffs if we went 1 through 8.
Yes.
They just would have played.
Definitely.
Do you want to know who they would have played?
Leafs.
The Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh.
Yeah, and there would have been a road team.
Would have been a fun.
No, and there's two plays 3, so there's still
doesn't matter.
There's still a road team. My bad.
I think it freaking matters.
They're one of the most difficult teams in the league to evaluate.
Yeah,
because they are, man, outside of a couple guys, the same.
Yes,
they are the same team. Here's the difference: they were on the lower half of league average before hiring Patrick Waugh.
Yes.
Then they went on a run. So what you got to decide is this team closer to what they were at the end of the season with Patrick Waugh, or was that just the new coach shine, the new coach rub? Because they are, outside of like Anthony Duclair, the same team.
They are. Duclair, Horvat, Barzal, Simon Holmstrom, who I want to come back to, Brock Nelson, Palmieri, Anders Lee, Pajot, Engvall. Gotta love Engvall. Suzuki. The 4th line's different. No
By
Clutterbuck.
subtraction.
No Martin. It's Sipakalov. Maxim Siplikov and Kyle McLean. And then on the back end, you got Romanov, Dobson, Pelich, Pollock, Riley, Mayfield. Here's the thing with this division. And guys, this is how I want to set this up. The Islanders being the same may not be beneficial because I have seen, I believe anyway, teams are getting better around them. Question is, can they stay at that level, that tier of team, the Washington Capitals, who got better, the Carolina Hurricanes, who got a little worse, but are still pretty good.
There's points to be gained there,
right? Mm-hmm. What do you think about the Islanders this year?
Just to answer Steve's question like a simple way about the coach bump, a lot of people, and 2 guys sitting next to me, didn't want to believe me when I was like, with the Vancouver Canucks, the year they fired their head coach and they bring in Rick Tocchet, they got the coach bump and they were good for like 2 months to end the year.
Yep.
And everyone's like, that's not real or anything.
And then they rode the coach bump into the next season.
And then did you ride the coach bump or did you just turn into a good team?
Yes.
And that's what I believe the Islanders did at the end of last season. They were 14-7-2 to close the year. That's from March 1st to the end of the season. That is the 6th best record in the National Hockey League. That, to me, feels real. Just like how the Vancouver Canucks closed a really good season. They rode it to the next year. I feel like there's a playoff team again this year with the Islanders.
Weren't a bunch of the teams around them hot as well in that final little stretch?
In terms of Metro teams?
No, not just Metro teams. Like that's the final spot came down to like Pittsburgh was really competing for it.
Washington.
Philly was dying to give it away. Washington was really in there. Mm-hmm. But the Islanders held them all off.
Yes.
They were very, very good. I guess to me, the biggest question with this team, or the biggest confusion I have with this team, is we were talking a couple weeks ago, Jesse, and you're like, yeah, I wonder who's going to be getting the starts there. And I'm like, I think it's the goalie making $8 million. I know he's been a little banged up to start the season, but you're making it seem like Waugh isn't even sure which guy he likes the most.
Because Varlamov carried them to the playoffs. Like, this little run here we're talking about is largely because Varlamov was excellent. And one thing I truly believe with the Islanders is that they have the best goalie tandem in the league.
Yes.
Because
It's
a lot
extremely
of the situations right now across the National Hockey League where you have the pure number one, like you have Igor in New York, but you got Quick. It's not really a star. Vasi, and then whoever they want to throw behind
I think
Vasi.
it's Jonas Johansson, but I don't.
Ottinger, one. Demko, he's out. Anytime there's a case for like a pure number one, you don't have this stud behind him. And the Islanders have this great luxury. Boston had this for all of these years. Now they've gotten rid of it. And
Both of them.
And I feel like the Islanders are in that position that Boston was in, where they have Varlamov who can carry this load and was the reason they got into the playoffs. But then you have Sorokin, who's top 5 goaltender in the world.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think there's something really there, strong foothold here with goaltending the Islanders. I believe in them.
Well, and we talked about Martin Brodeur saying like, "Oh, goalies should be playing more games and stuff like that." And then people were like, "Are you going to tell Martin Brodeur about goaltending?" Well, now here's Patrick Waugh
Right.
in behind the bench, and he is ironically in charge of one of the best goaltending tandems in the world.
Along the goaltending line, I think it's notable that Mitch Korn, who revived Robert Leonard's career, is no longer there. And he also made Sorokin. I think Varlamov was coming off a bit of a tougher spot with the Avs.
Well, why would they need him?
Well,
They have Patrick Waugh, right?
they do. It's
easy.
Piero Greco is going to be the new guy, but Mitch Korn went to Nashville. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, because some guys play really well under a specific coach, puts them in their happy place, life is good. And some guys are like, no, I don't like this new guy. I don't like what he's asking me to do. I feel like if you're the new goalie coach for the Islanders, you should probably just ask, hey, what did Mitch ask you to do? Okay, do more of that. Because really, there's nothing to fix here. And I feel like maybe the coach might have more to learn from the goaltenders than the goaltenders from the coach. Does that make sense?
It does. And I was like, Piero Greco, why do I know that name? Oh, because he was the Toronto Marlies goaltending coach for 4 seasons before joining the New York Islanders.
Makes sense, the Lou Lamoriello connection there.
Lou Lamoriello connection, and I believe he made Calvin Pickard and Garrett Sparks look like stars. He would be a Calder Cup champion. Piero Greco. Pierre Greco.
There you go. Well, so beyond that, though, one of the things the Islanders, in theory, should probably struggle with is goals. Mm-hmm. Goals are going to probably be an issue.
Well, they got Anthony Duclair.
Who scores goals? They were a negative 17 in goal differential last year. Now, part of that was a bad start, firing the coach, bringing a new coach, whatever.
Sure.
Patrick Waugh, though, when he was the coach of the Avalanche, they were playing high-octane hockey. Mm-hmm. What do we think about their ability to bridge that gap? Even coming out even next year would be a massive swing.
They do have the horses for it, believe it or not. Like, they have the guys to score ugly goals, the goals you need. Anders Lee, Brock Nelson's so underrated.
I have him in my hockey pool.
Yeah, good pick. Honestly, good pick. Like, everyone always forgets him. He's always available on waivers for some reason. He's really good. Barzal gets forgotten about. Horvat's so good. Duclair is usually good for 20 at very least. Noah Dobson can move the puck like crazy. They have a really solid top 4 back there. There's a lot to like about this team. They've ridden the reputation for a few years now of, but you don't want to play them in the playoffs. And that's why I was like, you know what? I actually have Isles in 7 this past year, and they got killed. Mm-hmm. And was it you or Adam who also had the Isles in the first round? I think it was you.
I can't remember.
Might have been.
Yeah. Like, they just...
In theory, they should be great in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd like to see more high-end up front. And as long as we're talking about underrated players in this league, like Noah Dobson, like for the amount of points he put up, just did not get the fanfare he deserved.
Also in my hockey pool.
Adam, just smart. Just really smart. I had him last year, and he was a friggin' darling.
Jesse, what's standing out to you when you're looking at this roster?
Yeah, the goal scoring thing is going to be a real trouble when you don't have the 40 goal scorer. Like last season,
Dangle.
Their leading goal scorers were Nelson, Horvat, and Palmieri, 34, 33, 30. So they're doing the thing where you score by committee, right? And everybody can get those mid 30s and will accumulate enough through all those stars to get enough goal scoring. But you'd really love to see them one day have that high end goal scoring talent. So I think like that's going to be the part where they're going to be not amongst the top teams, but they'll be super competitive. And you hope that the defense is strong enough and the goaltending's strong enough that you don't need to score as many goals, as the other teams, because you're playing low event, low scoring hockey.
That is a lot of Lou Lamoriello teams over his career. Like the Devils had like a couple guys where they're like, can you do it all, please? That'd be nice. He lost his mind for a couple seasons and joined the Leafs. And then, the Islanders have kind of been doing that thing. It's basically a question that comes down to, do you believe in what they're doing? Like they're the anti-Devils.
Right.
Where like we look at the Devils and what they already had and then the wild amount of stuff they did. And we're like, okay, does all this new stuff make the bad stuff not bad anymore? They were bad last year.
Right.
Are they still bad? The Islanders, it's do you believe it? They're nearly identical to the team that made the playoffs in a really, really good back 2/3, we'll say, back half of the season. Do you believe it?
I want to say that the Athletic has the Islanders pipeline, interestingly, as one of the lowest in the league, number 25. But a guy I want to draw your attention to is Simon Holmstrom.
Good player.
Good player, big body, the kind of winger that Lou Lamoriello loves. And he kind of went under the radar. Now, I know he played 75 games last year. This guy's one of those guys from that weird 2019, 2020, 2021 draft. Development curve stunted. But he had more goals with the Islanders last year than he did in Bridgeport the year before. In almost the same amount of games. He's big. He's 23.
What do you have?
He had 15 last year, 12 the year before. And I think he's going to be playing top 6.
How many assists?
10.
10. I think he's the kind of guy.
He might be a 2020 guy, but there's 20 more goals than they would have had.
Totally. Like I think he's the kind of guy any coach loves to have. I would say middle 6.
Okay.
Maybe even bottom.
Well,
6.
this is what they have penciled in right now as of this recording.
The potential's there. Like how old did you say he was?
23.
Come on.
Yeah. Big boy, 23. Make it happen. Now, to get to the odds here, the Islanders had 94 points last year. BetMGM has their odds at 90.5 over under. What do you guys have them, and where do you have them finishing in the division? Are you over, and where are they finishing in the division?
90.5 is the over under.
Yeah.
That's an easy over for me. Very easy over. I have them 4th.
Okay.
Which is down a spot from last year. I just think the division's so tight. Like, I don't think they're better than last year. I don't think they're worse. It's nothing against them. It's a really tight division. So 4th, but over.
Jesse.
I'm going to say the same thing. 4th. It's the easiest spot to slot them in is in 4th because, there's 3 teams ahead of them. You think they're going to be fighting for the tops of the standings of the league, but the Islanders kind of slot in a playoff spot right there in 4th, and I'll go over. And the thing we didn't mention on D, the best part of the Islanders is the poopy line. The poopy pairing, I should say.
Tell us, Jesse.
Pollock and Pelech.
The poopy pairing.
Shut up.
The poopy pairing is going to be the best pairing in the National Hockey League simply because they are poopy.
Absolutely. I'm gonna say over, but I do think that they're going to finish 5th because I have a lot of hopes in the.
Wow.
I think the Caps are going to be a lot better than people are giving them credit for.
Strong division, man.
I know it is. It's a lot stronger than it was last year. The Metropolitan is no more. That's your Islanders season preview.
Here, one last thing.
Okay.
Lou, you're getting up there. We need one more classic Lou blockbuster.
Yeah.
One more.
Mitch.
Make it.
Stop.
Make it happen.
Mitch Core.
Mitch Marner.
Oh.